Shimon first.
Okay, I will give a very short introduction in Hebrew. שלום, שמי שמעון קורנפלד, תפנית ניהול בנייה. רק כדי שיהיה קונטקסט להרצאה של אניה, פגשתי את אניה כשטיפלתי בביתן היהודי באושוויץ בירקנאו מטעם יד ושם. היא הייתה סגנית הרסטורטור של מוזיאון אושוויץ בירקנאו, אחר כך הייתה סגנית הרסטורטור של ורשה, ומזה כ6 שנים אנחנו עובדים יחד, גם בארץ וגם בפולין. ובעצם ביקשתי מאניה שתתייחס קצת להבדלים. עשינו כברת דרך בתחום השימור פה, כולנו מכירים את זה, התקדמנו, ובכל זאת מדי פעם יש דברים שאנחנו יכולים לעשות יותר אולי בצורה מדויקת, ובעניין הזה ביקשתי מאניה להתמקד.
תודה רבה. שלום לכולם, אני שמחה להיות פה היום. אני מקווה שעוד כמה שנה אני יוכל לתת את הפרזנטציה בעברית, אבל עכשיו אני עוברת לאנגלית. תודה. As Shimon said, I am working now both in Poland and in Israel, and I'm observing some differences in the process of planning, designing, and execution of works in historical buildings. And I would like to show you the differences and similarities between Poland and Israel, and point out some things or steps of the process that, in my opinion, are missing here, and maybe convince you that you need people like me also here in Israel. So I would like to start from very few words about the background of conservator restorers in Poland. In Poland, conservation is an academic course of 6 years. It's a master course, and there are 3 universities that give such course since 1947. Since 1947, conservation and restoration is an academic discipline in Poland. And in Poland, you can study 4 specializations. This is conservation of and restoration of paintings and polychrome sculpture, stone sculpture and architectural elements, paper and leather, and textiles. And on many occasions, when I say I'm conservator restorer, it's not a very common profession, not here and for sure not in Poland. People ask me, okay, what do you actually do? And they think that I'm sitting in the museum and dealing with the artifacts that they can see at the exhibitions. Part of us do this job also, but we are also present in the process of conservation of historical monument sites and buildings. And what this extensive 6 years program gives us in Poland is a license to carry out conservation research and work. And in Poland we have a legal act dealing with protection of cultural heritage that regulates actually says who can do what. And there are many details, but the basic rule is that you cannot touch a historical object, you cannot touch a historical building if you don't have a license. And in order to get a license, you need to complete the studies in conservation and get additional 9 months of practice after graduation. On the right, you have an example of curriculum of the academic studies. This is from my university, so that was 20 years ago, but it has not changed much since then. And as you see, it is a very interdisciplinary discipline which combines mainly chemistry, art, and art history. So I would like to move to the main topic of my presentation, to the role of conservator in the process of conservation of historical buildings. And we have basically 2 main stages in such a process. It's design stage and execution stage. And the the design phase for me is divided into two major steps. The first step is conservation research, and the second step is conservation program. And here the differences and similarities between Poland and Israel start. So in the projects that I dealt with in Israel, I could see wonderful job done by conservation architects on the historical and architectural research of the buildings. It's called Tikteut, if I understand well. And the files that I saw are really, really amazing. They're very well done, very professional. They deal with the history of the object, with the changes, formal changes, historical changes of the object. A little bit less they deal with values. This is something that I will talk about a bit later. And they also analyze the historical and non-historical elements. Based on such Tikteut, we should know what should be preserved and what should not. What I found missing here is addressing the issue of the materials. I didn't see a lot of professional reports on composition of the materials, on chemical and physical properties of materials, and also not a lot on stratigraphy of layers. And I would like to show some examples. This is Beit Ha'atzmaut, the project that we used to deal with not long ago. The project has stopped, unfortunately, but we got an amazing Tikteut, again, very nice, very well explained what were the stages of the building, what were the chronological layers and changes. But what I did not find, and this is the picture from my report and from my research, was it was completely missing. What kind of plaster do we have there? Is it original or non-original? Should it stay? Should it be replaced? Should we conserve it? If yes, what is the way to conserve it? What kind of materials should we use in order to conserve the original, make the new one look like original? Shall it look like original or maybe not? What should be the properties of the materials that we use in order to make them last long and in order to achieve good result? So this is the research that I completed. Another example is the ZIF building in Weizmann Institute of Science. It's the first building ever built in the campus where the Weizmann Institute started. Again, amazing architectural research, very good Tikteut. And then some elements that we decided to complete. I actually did a stratigraphy report on the layers of paint and plaster all over the building, both outside and inside. And we also checked the composition and properties of plaster. In some areas, for a conservator, it is enough to uncover layer by layer with a scalpel in a very simple physical way on the building to find out what was the stratigraphy of the layers, what was the original layer, what kind of colors came later. Sometimes it's not enough. And then when we are not sure, we dig in and we do more research. So we take samples, and this is a good example. I found out 13 layers on this wall. When I took a sample and watched it under the microscope, it turned out there are 15. So in order to be sure, sometimes you need more research. And another example from Poland, just to compare and to show you a very similar approach that we have. This is a project that a palace for which I wrote conservation program 2 years ago. Again, on the left, architectural research. There is one slight difference. In Poland, sometimes when you don't have enough documents, when you don't have original plans and layouts, you need to dig a bit more. You need to uncover some parts. And again, then it is a physical intervention to the object. By the law, you need a special license for it. Not everyone can just, not the architect who doesn't have a license, he cannot do it. You need special training course and education. So this is on the left. And on the right, it's the job of conservators. We did the research on paint layers, and in this case, we found out there is a decoration under the superficial layers, so we had to discover more, and we found out quite a lot of wall paintings in this palace that now will be conserved. By the way, I know many examples of buildings in Poland where the research was not thorough enough, even done by very good conservators, but limited by funds or by time. And I know a palace where a colleague of mine found some paintings, but she didn't go through all the rooms and all the areas. The contractor came, he removed the plaster, they're gone. It's too late now. There's nothing that can be done. So if this part of the job is not done well, we can find ourselves making very serious mistakes. Another example of a project in Israel, it's also Weizmann Institute. It's Beit HaShomer, a very small building for the guard designed by Eric Mendelssohn. We were asked to join the project a bit late, because the contractor is already on site, and what did I find out? No research on properties of the plaster and of the wall. Nobody checked the salinity. You don't check the salinity, you don't know how much salt you have in the walls. How do you know if you need to desalinate or not? How do you know if you can strengthen the structure of the stone or not, if you don't have the data? How do you know what kind of plaster should be used in order to deal with the wall that is problematic because the salts are already in it? How do you know what are the layers before you apply plaster and after in order to provide the best result? This is exactly what we deal with in step 2, which is the conservation program. And this is maybe the most important slide in my presentation, because this is exactly what I see missing here. I see people jumping from tiktaoud to architectural drawings and to permitting. And in this process, there is no time, no space for good analysis of the materials, for preparing good instructions for the contractor, for sometimes also for deciding about more general things like whether you should conserve the element or replace the element. How do you know what you should do if you don't have a good condition report, if you don't know what is actual state of preservation of the element, what are the reasons for damages, how to prevent those damages in the future? All of these questions should be answered in the conservation program that in Poland we prepare parallel to architectural drawings. Now we don't get a permit without conservation program. In Poland, there's no permit without conservation program. You cannot move forward. These things have to be analyzed, researched, and decided at the stage of planning. And again, I marked with colors the elements that I found that are done here very, very well. In blue, there are the elements that are addressed, but in my opinion, not always thoroughly enough. And in red, there are elements that I never found prepared well in any project that I saw here. And this is, as I said before, the condition report or the analysis of the state of preservation and then the instructions, very detailed instructions of conservation treatments that give you the materials that you should use, the methods, the chronology of the treatment, etc. What happens if you don't have a program or if the program is not good enough? This is an example of a townhouse in one of the villages in Poland. I was asked to prepare a conservation program for it just 1 month ago. This building was restored a few years ago, really, really recently, but it got a permit, so it had to have a conservation program. Either the program or the execution was not good enough, and this is the result. First of all, this building was not lucky also in the past. These are the photos from the, I think, 30s and then 70s. The colors were kind of a result of someone's ideas at the time. But look what happened here. Restoration done a few years ago. We have damaged plaster, detached, full of salt. The insulation layers were not done correctly. They didn't deal properly with the architectural details. You can see that the original detail had a nice texture, pretending it was a stone. That is also seen in some drawings. In this case, someone just came and made it very flat, used the wrong type of plaster, wrong type of technology, also wrong type of paint and paint binder. Again, the windows have nothing to do with historical windows. They are ahistorical, they have wrong profiles, the frame around it is done from polystyrene, and it's just a crime. So this is what happens when the program is not thorough enough, not good enough, and execution and supervision is not right. Now, very few words about permits, because I think we could have a separate talk about permits and permitting in case of historical buildings. Bottom line is, permitting is very, very tricky in case of conservation, because there is, what are the criteria for the permits, whether to give a permit or not? We have some documents, of course. We have a legal act, we have zoning plans that tell us what we can do, what we cannot. In Poland, we have a register of monuments that gives a special protection to outstanding historical buildings. We have some, in Poland, we have also some regulations of the Minister of Culture. So this is a set of documents that we take our knowledge from. We also base our knowledge on academic knowledge, on international documents, and the good practice or common sense that we, what is good practice and common sense in conservation? It's also a good question. Actually, the architects who come to me and ask me to prepare conservation programs for them, they want me to deal with the authorities because they don't know how to speak to them. Why? Because these guys and I, we speak the same language. At the end of the day, we had to learn chemistry and art at the same time for many years. So it is kind of language of the professionals that architects do not always understand, because it's a bit different way of thinking. And at the end of the day, the permits, when it comes to historical buildings, זה תמיד תלוי. It depends on context, it depends on history of the building, it depends on significance of the building, it depends on how the building is used, it depends on interventions in the past, it depends on state of preservation, it depends on whether to many things that have to be taken into consideration, and there is no objective code of rules that will tell us this permit is right or wrong. So it's very subjective, and it's difficult to predict if we will get a permit or not. And I just want to show you some examples from Poland. These buildings, all of them got permit, right? This is an extension of a building in Warsaw. We can discuss it. By the way, it's according to conservation rules, everything's fine here. Is it good? We can discuss. Another example in Katowice, a bit better in my opinion. Again, matter of taste. This project got a special prize for a good adaptation of historical building. This is, in my opinion, a very good example of good understanding how you can put a superstructure on top of the historical building. This, not so much. At the end of the day, it also depends on the sensitivity of the architects who plan the works, and how can I help? My time is almost over. I will just take a few more minutes to finish. How can we help? How can a conservator help? So I just want to show you an example from the last year. This is a house from the end of 19th century in Zakopane, south of Poland, in a Zakopianian regional, a very characteristic style. This is the historical photo and the present state of preservation. And these are the ideas of the architects. The first one is in the left top corner, then there was another one. It is a progress that happened after conservators joined the team. Still not ideal, but I believe we have some positive input. Now I know I have to finish very soon. Just a few more words about the second stage of the process, execution stage. So how can we help during the works on site? There are two ways actually to achieve the good quality of works and to make sure that all the things that we wrote in the program are implied during the works. So either we take the responsibility and we lead the works, or we do it ourselves, or we supervise the works. And these are some examples from Israel. This is the conservation work that we did on Yad Vashem Gate. This is the picture after conservation. It was a very, very complex process that I actually supervised every day of the works. I was there every day with the workers on each process, on dismantling, on disassembly of the elements, on changing the construction. Some of the works I did myself because I felt they need a little bit more artistic approach and skills, manual skills. I think the result is very good. Another example, Pagoda House, not far from here in Nachmani Street. I encourage you to go and see. I would like you to have a look at the facade and have a look around you, and look at the buildings around that have been also recently restored and see the difference. I believe there is a significant difference, and for this project I brought conservators from Poland. This happy team of dirty guys, these are guys who spent their 6 years at the university in order to do this job. And just last, very, very important stage, last but not least, documentation. Documentation is very important. Nowadays we have wonderful tools to do a very good documentation that we can use during our works, and the future conservators will be able to use in the future to know exactly what were the problems in the past, what was done, why it was done, how it was done, and what they can do with the building again. And this is then an example of Redeemer Church in Jerusalem. This is done by David Zell. I believe he's still here. I met him before. Wonderful job. This is an example of how we can use the previous documentation. This drawing on the left is a drawing from the 60s. And we could, 60s, I believe, yes. and we could exactly compare the condition of the original stones and the stones that were added later. Another very good photogrammetric photo of Yad Vashem Gate. And an example of photogrammetry from Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp. Thank you very much.